Hey guys, welcome virtually. We've had to get used to this new world that we're living in with all the crazy differences that all of us had faced, and doing these virtual wine tastings has actually been kind of fun. Sort of one of the kind of, I don't know, we call them collateral benefits to this thing is that we can just jump on an iPhone or a computer and chat with you guys. But we're really excited today because we get to actually drink these Bledsoe McDaniels wines. I was saying earlier before everybody was on, we don't have very much of this wine, and we don't have very much of it left. So it's kind of a cool excuse for me and Josh to actually be able to drink these wines. So thanks for giving us the excuse. Cheers. I'm assuming most people on this, you kind of already know what, our story going back. So we probably won't jump into that too much. But I think it'd be pretty fun to, just really talk about the inception of the Bledsoe McDaniels winery and how that came to be. And we've got some great questions. A lot of you guys submitted some great questions for us, but I'll just start at a high level and talk about, kind of how this thing came to be. Everything that we do, we've got a purpose behind everything that we do. Nothing's just kind of thrown at the wall to see if it sticks. That's not how we do business. But for this project, there are really three immediate reasons that this exists. First, I guess maybe in no particular order, but the first one I'll talk about on the Pinot Noir side, and there's some great questions about this that some of you submitted. We just really like Oregon Pinot Noir, and in our house, Mara and I probably drink more Oregon Pinot Noir than anything else in our house. And we've always been big fans of what comes out of the Willamette Valley. I've been intrigued by it for many years. We also, and you guys kind of helped us prove this, those of you that got our white label project last year with both the Pinot Noir and with our Lafort Vineyard Syrah, it was really kind of an answer to demand. We decided to produce the single vineyard Syrah from the Rocks District in Walla Walla last year. We put it out as a club only wine, and the response was so strong that we really then decided, okay, you know what? Maybe we can build a winery around these two varietals and really showcase not only the differences, but also the commonalities and the similarities between the two varietals, between Syrah and between Pinot Noir. And then lastly, and I'll kick it over to Josh, but I think anybody that's been following what we've done for quite a while, I hope that some of you kind of, maybe like my football career or whatever, but the real truth is you've been following what we've been doing because Josh and his team have been making such amazing wine for so long. But since 2014, when Josh officially took over, his name's only been on the back of the bottle. And it's getting to the point where he's such an integral part to our brand that we really felt like his name needed to be on the front of the bottle as well. So now we've got an official partnership between the two of us, and Josh's name goes on the front, and we're going to do a lot of fun and great stuff with these wines going forward. With that, Josh, I'm going to kick it over to you. Why don't you talk about the Pinot Noir first, and maybe talk about the project, and I'll see if I can get everybody to shut up downstairs. You're making too much noise.
Yeah, well, thanks, Drew, and cheers, everyone. Thank you so much for your initial support of the winery. It's cool to be able to do this. It's the first time I think we've really been able to talk about the new project with customers. Wish we could do it in person, and I'm sure we will someday. I'm going to give Drew some crap. I really wanted it to be McDaniels Bledsoe, but he kind of pushed for Bledsoe McDaniels. He's still got a big ego for some reason. Luckily, he left, so I can say that. But Bledsoe McDaniels is really, it's new, but we've been working on it for a long time. I had the great fortune of making Willamette Valley Pinot Noir since 2011 for my longtime mentor, Chris Figgins. And we actually made a vintage of Pinot Noir for Bledsoe Family Winery in 2017 when an opportunity came up. we were interested in getting back down there into the Willamette Valley. And I know my wife and I also love Pinot Noir. Growing up in Walla Walla and going through college here and coming out of college, coming back to the wine industry, Willamette was the place that we escaped to, where we could go wine taste and have fun because we knew everyone in Walla Walla. And so it was this really fun valley that we got to know in a more personal way, I think, than I even got to know Walla Walla. But the valleys and the varietals that we're tasting today, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Walla Walla Valley, Willamette Valley, there's obvious differences. You think of Walla Walla, you think arid, dry climate. You think of the Willamette Valley, you think of that coastal influence. You think of cooler climate, a little bit wetter. You think of Pinot Noir, you think light skin and different fruit flavor profiles. You think of Syrah, you think of inky darkness, and you think of smoked meat and game. And you think about that, at face value, like we all do, and they're completely different. They're complete opposites. Why would you start a wine project around those two variables and valleys? But when you dive deeper, which is something that we like to do, and you geek out on things like this, and you take that deep dive and you understand that, the fundamental, the transformational things that formed Walla Walla, the lava flows, 15 million years ago, the Missoula floods 10,000 years ago, all of that really actually formed the Willamette Valley too. So the Willamette Valley, the bedrock, the foundation that everything's planted on is the same exact lava flows that Walla Walla is planted on. And in fact, I was down in one of our new sites this summer, walking through a site down in Eola Amity Hills and kicking around fractured basalt. It felt like I was up here in McQueen Vineyard in our state vineyard. And then you think about the Missoula floods that transformed Walla Walla and made Eastern Washington such a special place to grow, Cabernet and Syrah. And that, the Missoula floods actually ended up settling down in the Willamette Valley too. So there's just so many of these, obvious differences, but when you dive into it, there's so much more similar than I think the casual person is willing to admit or even see. And it's actually been really fun to, I think, go against the grain and start a project based around these two varietals and valleys. So, this year, 2018, we kind of won the lottery, I think, on a vintage to start with. 2018 is, with Doubleback, with Cabernet, with Bledsoe Family Winery and the varietals we make there. It's might be shaping up to be one of my favorite in my career. Absolutely a gorgeous vintage from start to finish, and I just can't be more excited about that. One thing I'll say as we go through this, if you guys drink more, Drew and I actually get more interesting and funny. So please do that. And I'm really happy to see some really people out there with Bledsoe McDaniels t-shirts. Those are awesome. So looking good, Bob. Looking good. I appreciate that.
Doing some marketing on my own. I got the old Bledsoe McDaniels shirt here. My brother likes to give me crap when I wear a shirt like this. He's like, "Oh, really? You want to make sure people know who you are? Put your name on your shirt. That's way to go, dummy." I think I had to step away. I actually found some headphones. Hopefully, my audio is a little better than it was before. It's a really exciting project, honestly. And one of the things that that really gave me a ton of confidence on this project, and I think a lot of you guys know this, we're generally pretty selfish when it comes to the wines we make. We make wines for ourselves first, and I don't know if Josh already said this, but last year we did some Pinot Noir for the club, and we did the Lafort Syrah for the club, and those ended up being two of my favorite wines that we made last year. And so for us, on the selfish side, we're making wines because we like them, and we genuinely hope you guys like them as well. But it's been really fun, and it's been a cool project. We got a little bit of pushback on doing Pinot Noir and Syrah side by side, and I know Josh touched on this earlier, but it's honestly been really, really cool for me to learn and understand some of the similarities between these varietals. And honestly, where Doubleback, we try to make the purest and best expression of Walla Walla Cabernet that we can make, and we use multiple different vineyards to do that. These wines are a pure expression of place. They're an expression of where they're from, and that's been a lot of fun. We've got a bunch of great questions. It's always more fun for Josh and I to just jump into questions. So I'm going to fire first. Josh, what would you consider an ideal pairing with the Pinot Noir?
Yeah, I love this question. Being in the Northwest, we're so blessed and fortunate to have great wine, not only great wine, but great food too. And one of my all-time favorite pairings is like a great risotto and Northwest salmon. I love salmon and Pinot Noir. A lot of times, I hear people say, well, I'd rather do Gamay or I'd rather do Chardonnay or Riesling or something. But when you have great Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, I absolutely love eating salmon with it. I grew up, it's funny. My dad commercial fished in Alaska when we were growing up, and we actually ended up hating salmon when we were kids. And, we didn't understand how spoiled we were when my dad would bring coolers of salmon home. But now as an adult, I have a great appreciation for that. And, we're actually all salmon safe certified in our vineyards too, which is really cool, being such an important part of, the tributaries to the Columbia River and extended. But I absolutely love that one. Drew, I'll shoot it back at you. With all the great Pinot producers in the Willamette Valley, why did you decide to make one?
That's an interesting question because, we have so many friends that make just amazing Pinot Noir in the Willamette Valley. We just wanted to see how we could do with it. Quite honestly, Josh and our team, they have absolutely knocked it out of the park with everything that they've made for us. Really wanted to see if they could continue the hot streak and continue to make great wines, regardless of what the varietal was or even what the region was in this case. But we were kind of selfish when we went out to do this in selecting the vineyards. There's an amazing amount of science and analysis that goes into the process of making wine. And I actually got to spend a lot more time in Walla Walla this year and really follow Josh and the team around. And it's pretty humbling to see how meticulous they are, across the board in tracking. But then there are some pieces of the business that are actually quite simple. When we selected vineyards to make Pinot Noir, we simply went to the vineyards and the AVAs that have made the wines we've fallen in love with over the years. So we go to Ribbon Ridge, we're getting some fruit from Lingua Franca. We stopped through there and love those wines. We're getting some from Andy Lytle at his Anahata vineyard, guy that we've been a huge fan of for a long time. So we were kind of selfish. And from that standpoint, it was actually a little bit simple. We're just like, hey, we like that one. Let's go source from there. And then you take that fruit and you put it in the hands of a master and a great team, and we go from there.
Yeah, I'll give Andy a quick plug here. He's on the call, and I've got to give him a shout out. He's got a great new sparkling wine project down in Willamette called Lytle Barnett. So go check that out, everyone on the call.
Great bubbles, and you don't have to drink bubbles just for a celebration. By the way, you can drink them on a Tuesday. I've learned that. So thanks, Andy. Appreciate the Tuesday bubbles as well as the celebration bubbles, big guy.
Love it.
So, Josh, sounds like the people that have actually cracked the Pinot, they're big fans, as I am. What are the expansion plans on Oregon Pinots?
Yeah, it's something. So down in Willamette, we're really, it would be easy for us and too arrogant for us to go down and act like we know the place and own the place. And there's been so many incredible people that we've met, so many incredible people that have, helped us along the way. I'm thinking of Wynn and Harry that own Ridgecrest Vineyard, my friends, Christine Claire, Willamette Valley Vineyards, Josh Bergstrom at Bergstrom. There's so many great people, Andy on this call. There's so many great people that have helped us along the way. And so we're really trying to take things slow. We want to take things slow. We really want to get to know the area. We really want to, just like we did with Doubleback, take it slow, try to learn, do it the right way. We want to make high quality wine. You know, we don't want to sacrifice along the way and try to grow too fast. And so with the Pinot Noir, you know, we've expanded, and Drew nailed it. You know, when we started out, you know, we've had a couple of vineyards that we knew we liked. And then on top of that, you know, outside of this 2018 and 2019, we expanded it down into the Eola Amity Hills. So on the southern end of the Willamette Valley, maybe a tad bit warmer on some of those sites, a tad bit cooler, but different. You know, and we found places that we really enjoyed the wines that we've tasted and bought and, you know, enjoyed a lot of over the years. And so, you know, we're waiting to see. You know, we're going to let quality drive those decisions and expansion decisions, and let the wine tell us what we're able to do rather than what we think we're capable of doing. And so when we get into this project, you know, and you know, Mother Nature throws a curveball at you. You think of this year in 2020, there was smoke taint was a real issue for the first time in my career, and we're still waiting to see what those wines are like. So we'll never sacrifice on quality to make a little bit more wine and try to make profit. It's more about trying to make, you know, really establish our name down there as a respectable player, and establish ourselves as making great Pinot Noir, just like we do up here with Cabernet and Syrah.
So one of the kind of funny questions, Josh, at least to me, the aging potential for the Pinot Noir. The reason that's funny to me is that we really love Oregon Pinot Noir. We have a really hard time aging it because once it gets to the house, we end up drinking it. So I've found that the only way to actually really experiment with the aging potential of Oregon Pinot is to hide it from myself. So I'll take some boxes up to Montana and put them in the back of the closet up there, and you know, nice cool dry spot, and then just try to forget about them for 5 to 7 years. But you know, Josh, you want to talk a little, just briefly about, you know, what you see from in terms of aging potential on the wine?
Yeah, and you know, somebody asked, what's the style and what are you going after? And so much of what we're going to do in Willamette is no different than what we're doing at Doubleback. You know, we have a style that we're known for in Cabernet, and we want to transition that style into making Pinot Noir, just in you know, with a different grape and in a different valley. You know, and Drew said, you know, we're always selfish about the way we approach winemaking, and that's true. And it's because, you know, we have, you know, almost 15 years of loyal supporters like yourselves that have trusted us to do just that. And throughout my career, I've seen people change their styles to chase scores, or change their styles to try to sell their winery to some big hedge fund. Whatever it is, you know, we're staying true to ourselves, staying true to the style that we've become known for. And you know, the biggest thing, you know, I've talked about this a lot with Doubleback, is, you know, when Drew retired from the NFL, I was a young wine geek thinking, you know, great, the world needs another celebrity athlete wine project. You know, what the hell does he know about wine? And Drew just absolutely broke that mold. And we've focused on making elegant styled Cabernets, you know, Cabernets that are true to that varietal, and Cabernets that aren't 200% new French oak and overripe and boring. And it's no different in our approach with Pinot Noir. We're absolutely trying to make the best Pinot Noir in that same frame of reference. So elegant styled Pinot Noir. There are going to be some tannins, just like in Doubleback. You know, there's going to be great acid, just like in Doubleback. And, you know, and we're going to do that naturally through vineyard selection and our gentle winemaking practices in the winery. So I think, you know, time will tell, but I'm excited to see these wines age. I know that's for sure. And I definitely think they can go a couple decades.
It's one of the things that I really appreciate and have grown to continue to appreciate with Josh and what he does with wine is he focuses a lot on texture in wine. And one of the things that I find that even with this Pinot Noir being as young as it is, you know, it's real Pinot. It's classic, elegant, lighter in style, but also with that has really great texture to it, really great mouthfeel to the Pinot, even though it is, you know, still true Pinot. Josh, just for a second, talk about a little bit what you do to try to achieve texture in wine, because that's a pretty complicated deal.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, you know, it starts in the vineyard. So, you know, we like a lot of sunlight. We like a lot of airflow around the wines. We've been, up at Ridgecrest. So Ridgecrest Vineyard, which is mostly the vineyard in this 2018 Pinot Noir. It was planted in the early 80s by Harry, who's a great guy. If you've never met him, he's quintessential Oregon in my mind, and he's just fun to work with. And his daughter's helped me out a ton, so I got to give her a bunch of credit. But that site, it's higher elevation. It's a windy site. In fact, the other vineyard in this wine is called Wind Ridge. It's on the very top of Ribbon Ridge, which is the smallest AVA in Oregon, and absolutely a cool place. Well, easily the first place I went to when we were looking for vineyard sites to make our own Pinot Noir. And so, you get some tannin out of those wines. Pinot Noir, it's been fun. It's been fun to work with. When you take those wines in the fermentation and you're extracting, flavor and tannin and whatever else you're trying to accomplish. We've used quite a bit of whole cluster. So we, just like in Syrah, we've used a lot of whole cluster fermentation. We do that. We sort the fruit and then we drop the clusters right into the fermentation bin. We get our interns in there and foot stomp the wines, actually, which they love, especially when it's freezing cold out. And then we do.
It's very important to note that when we foot stomp, number one, we're very sanitary. My feet never touch the grapes. I promise you that, because you would never want that. But it's a really hard hiring process for the people that stomp the grapes, because if you look into the old world, they have to be virgins if they're going to stomp the grapes. So that becomes harder and harder to find over the years. But we were able to find some pristine young ladies to make sure the grapes are properly stomped in the old world style.
I love it. Makes my job more fun. But we take that, and that whole cluster, that stem inclusion really helps develop the wine texturally. And Drew and I like to joke, a lot of times you think of tannic wines in the U.S. and you think of things that you don't like, but European wines, and one of our favorite wines in the world is Barolo. And these Barolo wines are incredibly tannic, but they're incredibly elegant at the same time. And so we kind of think along that frame and that mindset. And so when we go to extract these wines, we use a selection of, a little bit of pump overs and a little bit of punch downs by hand, and then go straight into oak with that. But we actually never rack these wines. They're all aged on the lees for about 18 months. And bottled, unfined, and unfiltered. So it's really a pure expression of those vineyard sites. Drew, this is a good one. This is a broad question, but what is the biggest lesson you've learned in 2020, both on leadership and in the winery?
What are you talking about? 2020 just been super normal. It's just business as usual, right? For everybody. One of the coolest things that I've learned and watched in transitioning from being an NFL quarterback and to owning and trying to help guide and run a business is that at a high level they're really similar endeavors. At the highest level, the things that allow you to be successful as a quarterback are the same things that you need in order to be successful in a business. Regarding 2020, the biggest commonality that I've seen is that if you're on a football team and you're quarterbacking a football team, you don't really know what kind of team you have until things go sideways. Until you're down a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter and until you lose a couple games in a row, that's when you really find out about your team. And, with us, for us, 2020 was certainly an extremely challenging year. I think we canceled somewhere around 45 or 50 events. Everything changed just for us, just like it did for everybody else. And it was really, really cool, for me, to be able to watch how our team performed getting through this. There were no complaints. People showed up, went to work. We canceled all our events. They repurposed their time and started reaching out directly to customers and found other ways to be effective. And, that part has been really, really cool to watch and admire. And it's, it's just been, I think speak for everybody probably in the world. I can't wait for it to get back to normal. And certainly don't want this to continue. I'd want this thing to be over as soon as it possibly can. But watching our team thrive through adversity has been really cool to watch. You know, Josh has been a great leader for the team, but we also just have an amazing group that, you know, that really just shows up and goes to work and makes it happen for us. And that part makes me extremely proud. Really, really cool.
Drew, I'm gonna jump into the Syrah now, and I love.
Sounds good.
I thought I still had the Pinot, and somebody poured me Syrah. I'm like, what the hell happened to the Pinot? And, this is starting to sing. We love, and Drew brought it up earlier to me today. We love to decant this wine ahead of time. You know, we make the cool thing, you know, and I'll expand on those similarities that are unknown. We actually make Syrah just like we make Pinot Noir. So we don't rack this wine. It never sees really any oxygen. And so when you pop that cork, let it breathe a little bit, and it kind of blows off some of those primary aromatics that kind of come out of barrel. And then it really starts to develop into this cool wine. So this wine has been super fun. So this was actually a cool thing that happened with Drew and I. We first made this wine a few years ago, and we had a critic come into town, and we were tasting at the winery together. And I pulled a bunch of different barrel samples of Syrah to taste with the critic on. And all of a sudden, this guy, I won't name his name, but, you know, he's like, holy smokes, what the hell is this wine? And, you know, we were like, you know, we kind of told him this, you know, Lafort Vineyard Syrah, you know, we did some whole cluster inclusion on this wine and playing it, you know, tight to the chest because those guys are always really awkward. But he's like, so you guys are going to bottle this on its own, right? And we were like, well, we weren't, you know, Drew likes to say, you know, we weren't planning on it, but now we are. And so it was this cool wine where it was so much different. And it was kind of our first foray into understanding how expressive Syrah is of terroir and where it's grown. And so this vineyard site, I'll share my screen here with everyone and try to pull it up. But this vineyard site is in the Rocks district of Milton Freewater. I got the vineyard here, but as you can see, it's an alluvial fan, so it's complete river rock. It's actually the most uniform soil series for an AVA in the United States. And it's all cobblestone. So you see these rocks in the middle and up and down the rows. It's just an incredible place. So this is actually the same fractured basalt that we see, just like I was talking about down in Willamette. We see it up on our hillside vineyard sites. We see it all over, you know, Eastern Washington and the Northwest. But it's been rolled by water. And so it's really hard. It's actually, you know, if you're ever out there, it's actually hard just to walk down the rows. And it makes the vines struggle. And because of that, you know, we get these crazy different flavors. And so I think Wine Spectator said, you know, the Rocks District in Milton Freewater is the most unique terroir in America. You know, that's a big statement when you're thinking about Rutherford and Howell Mountain and Walla Walla in general. And so it's been fun to make this wine. So these vines, we actually got to raise a glass because we actually own this vineyard officially as of Tuesday. So this week on Tuesday, we officially own this vineyard ourselves. So big deal for us and super fun. It's been a lot of work in getting there, but this vineyard, we got lucky. It was planted in the mid 1990s. It used to be an apple orchard. It was planted by the Lafort family, and they had an apple orchard there for a long time. We actually just had the John Lafort in the winery a couple times here where I'm at recently. So really cool to kind of pay homage to those family and keep the history going there. But also, you know, I think the cool thing about this, we found this out with Doubleback. We actually grow a lot of Cabernet here. Lafort, it just shows, you know, silky smooth tannins, higher pH wines. These are just super sexy wines. I love drinking these wines. They're hedonistic. They're so interesting. They're so layered, and so they change all the time. And they're just super, super fun to drink. So I think this ended up being like 60% whole cluster, you know, foot stomped by Drew's Virgins again. I don't know where he finds those all the time, but and then the cool thing too, I actually tasted with some Psalms here in the winery, and they were like, "How much oak is on this?" And they all thought there was a lot of oak, but there's almost no new oak on it. So it's actually a really cool project. Did we lose Drew, or did he come back? There he is.
I'm back now. I made the mistake of touching my headphone and it kicked me out. Yeah, these wines honestly have been really fun, you know. And you know, people. There's one of the questions here: why did we do this under a different winery rather than just doing it under Doubleback? And I think Josh touched on it, you know, a little bit. But you know, with Doubleback, we always want to be really clear about what that is. Doubleback is and always will be just our purest expression of Walla Walla Cabernet that we can make now from our estate vineyards. And we never want to be in a position where we're using that brand to sell something else. We want these wines to all stand on their own. And with this project, you know, we're great believers in the wine. We're great believers in the product, and you know, also I think I hit on it earlier, but you know, having our names side by side in the bottle is pretty fun. You know, you will notice that Bledsoe goes first. I told Josh that. I was like, you know, I think it just rolls off the tongue better. I'm not just flexing on you, Josh. It just sounds better. You know, it's just like, it's just, you know, no, we're really excited about the brand. And I think that we've got, you know, a lot of fun things in the future. One of the questions was on what we have on the horizon, you know, for other wines. So, with Bledsoe McDaniels, we have 2 more single vineyard Syrahs that we are working on that will be under this winery. We've got Flying Bee Vineyard, which is right at the winery. I'm actually sitting in front of a picture of the winery, so this is Flying Bee Vineyard right over my shoulder. And then also up at McQueen Vineyard on the south side of McQueen Vineyard. That's the one I'm probably the most excited about to see what it turns into. You know, I told Josh, you know, and we've talked about over time, you know, one of the hardest things in this business is how long everything takes. You know, when I was playing football, I knew immediately what my decision meant. You know, if my guy caught the ball, that was a good decision. If their guy caught the ball, that was a bad decision. But with this vineyard, and I'll let Josh talk about it a little bit, and he'll point out why I'm so excited about it. But with this vineyard, I feel like I'm a little kid and I see my Christmas presents under the tree, but I don't really get to open them for like a decade. And it's like, I don't get to see the full implications of what we've done up here for a long time. You know, now Josh doesn't get this because he's still so young, but you know, you get to be my age, like, man, I got to live a long time to see if this actually works out. You know, I mean, it's kind of bullshit. But I'm really excited about this vineyard. I want Josh to talk about what they had to do to actually plant this vineyard. But I think this is going to be a really cool single vineyard Syrah.
Yeah, and actually, I pulled up the photo here of the south side of McQueen. This is actually this boulder we're looking at. It's a pretty big boulder. It's this is basically what we're planted into on the south side of McQueen Vineyard. So this is all fractured basalt. And each one of these posts, we went to plant this site, and maybe a bit off a little bit more than I could chew here, but we ended up having to jackhammer out with a large excavator every one of these vine posts. And it's just a really cool place. So super, you know, one of my favorite wines, I'll go back a second here. One of my favorite wines is Chave Hermitage. Love that wine. It's like Syrah, but with tannin. And it's just an absolutely incredible wine. It's like a Cabernet's, Cabernet drinker's Syrah. And so we just love that site. It's on the south side, so it's going to be, you know, more intensity of sun. It's got a lot of wind, so there's going to be a lot of thickening of the skins. And I can't wait to get it. But they're all head trained. They're going to be head trained, grown up that single post, you know, high density vineyard site. And I can't wait to get in there. But also next year, Drew, you know, you got the picture of the winery right behind you. We actually have our first Syrah coming out next year for Bledsoe McDaniels off of the site right around the winery. That's the Flying Bee Estate Vineyard, and I'm excited about that wine. It's the, we get the biggest temperature swings from the daytime highs to the nighttime lows. When I remember when we first pressed this wine and Drew and I were tasting out a barrel, and Drew's like, holy smokes, this is like bacon fat and, smoked game, and just absolutely a cool wine. And so it's going to be really fun to see how much different each of these individual wines ends up being. Drew, this is a good question. What do you find most inspiring wines you produce, the grapes, the people, and the traditions around it?
It's cool. We just did a wine dinner down here in Bend, a week ago, and Josh and I actually got to be live and in person in front of people. It was an odd thing for Josh to do a wine tasting and actually have to wear pants, which was a new experience. But I was saying when we during the wine dinner, and this is really the truth. I really truly love the products that we produce, and I'm extremely proud of the wine that we produce. But I'm actually more proud of the team that does it, if that makes sense. Watching what Josh has done and watching what our team has done, particularly as I talked about earlier through 2020, watching our farm crew. We got to have a harvest party up there and got to spend some time with our harvest crew and see how much pride they have in the work that they do for us. And so honestly, it's, at the end of the day, I love sitting down and having a glass of our wine and sharing it with friends. But if you're asking what I'm most proud of, it's I'm more proud of the team that actually pulls it off, and watching their continuous growth and getting to see and be around all the incredible work that they do for us. It's been really, really cool. And that's the part that I take the most pride in, for sure.
Somebody asked, what were the big challenges we encountered while setting up down in Willamette? And it was certainly, did pose a challenge. It's 4.5 hours away, maybe 5 with traffic. And I absolutely, I found out that I absolutely hate that highway from Portland into McMinnville. It's maybe the worst stretch of road in the United States. But outside of that, it's almost no different. The biggest part that I've been really grateful for is having found, key people to lean on during harvest. That's been the hard time. Harvest, I'm so used to being so close to what we do at Doubleback. When down in Willamette, it's just a little bit more of a challenge. So I get a little bit more road time during harvest. And Drew's talked about how great our team is. Our cellar team has grown so much over the years with Doubleback that I've been able to rely on them and count on them a lot more. And that has freed me up to go check out the Pinot now, and go make sure everything's going on and doing well down there. So it's a challenge, but it's something that I've enjoyed, and it's such a beautiful valley to get into. I actually love it. Good. There's a few questions too. Our t-shirts, send us an email. We'll get you a t-shirt. They're really nice shirts, actually, pretty comfortable. There's a funny story actually on that photo. Drew, you might want to talk about that. You're on mute still.
So this photo, when we did the initial mock-ups, I mean, Josh not a little guy. He's pretty tall, 6'1", 6'2", whatever you are, Josh. But when we did the initial initial mock-ups, they actually took 2 pictures of me leaning against the barrel, and I was kind of pushing, like, no, we should go with that. That'd be a funny story down the road. And Josh kind of threw a fit and started to cry, and so we actually had to go and find an actual picture of Josh to make the silhouette out of. Otherwise, he's gonna have his feelings hurt.
I told him to make my biceps a little bigger, but
it's pretty funny. Yeah, no, we've got some swag for you, but yeah, send us an email and we can find some stuff for you. Let's see. Oh, Josh, this is interesting, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the Syrahs, Bledsoe McDaniels, LaFour Syrah versus Stolen Horse, and how we view those wines.
Yeah, for sure. So, Stolen Horse, and I'll backtrack actually. So Bledsoe McDaniels will always be single vineyard Syrah. So we'll have, LaFour like we do right now. Flying Bee will come out next year for the first time. And the year after, or 2 years, I guess now, will be McQueen Vineyard Syrah. So we've got, each individual site highlighted in its own individual way. Whereas Stolen Horse is a Walla Walla Valley Syrah. So the 2018 Syrah, Stolen Horse, for those of you that don't know, you probably know, but we make that under our Bledsoe Family Winery label. We've made that since 2009, and it's progressed over the years. It's actually, it's crazy to think of since 2009. That's a long time we've been making Syrah now. But that's where we learned making about Syrah, and in the 18 vintage, it's about a third. It's LaFour Vineyard, which is, as we talked about earlier, down in the Rocks District. It's Luss Vineyard, which is kind of central to the valley of Walla Walla. It's the estate right around Leonetti. And then it's Kenny Hill Vineyard, which is high up in the Blue Mountains, higher elevation. And each one of those Syrahs, just like these Syrahs for Bledsoe McDaniels, bring their own interesting and differences and uniqueness and traits to the wine. But we blend those together to create, kind of the best Syrah that we can make in Walla Walla. And it's just really cool. Walla Walla is this really small growing region, but very diverse. And so the Syrahs are all distinct. And when you put them together, actually, I think we're sold out of the 2018. We sold out pretty fast. But that Stolen Horse Syrah was really good. I actually really love this new vintage. So go check that out. Maybe next year too, if you can. But yeah, that's the main difference. Good.
Well, I'm looking to see if any other questions you guys have. You just type them into the chat window. We can, we can jump in and answer any other questions you have. But I think, as a kind of more of a broad statement about this project, and then just in general. First of all, I'll just start with a huge thank you. Those of you that have been around us and been around our business and our winery, and I think you all understand how passionate we are about what we do and how serious we take it. And we love it, I mean, and, Josh and I have talked at times where we even love the hard times, when he doesn't sleep for 6 weeks and the whole team's tired and they're all that because they're, harvest and crush. They actually kind of enjoy that. I mean, it doesn't last forever. But we're incredibly passionate about it. But at the end of the day, we don't get to do it unless we have customers that buy the wine. So just a huge thank you to you guys for continuing to support us. And beyond that, thanks for believing in a project that you really probably, whether you hadn't tasted before. This wine went away in about 24 hours. I did tell Josh I don't want him to get a big head, but just a huge compliment to him that all of you believe in him and believe in our team and believe in what we do enough to just trust that we're going to make great wine, even on something you haven't even tried before. So, thanks for the belief in us, and obviously huge credit to Josh and the squad for not screwing it up. You guys have probably already heard me say this at some point in the past, but I told Josh, hey, look, in my old job, I either did my job great or I got fired, right? So now I'm the boss and you're me. So you either do your job great or you're friggin' fired. And he's still working for us after all these years. So obviously believe he's continuing to do a great job. Otherwise, he'll be looking for employment, and I just don't want him to have to go through that, especially, in these crazy times. I'd hate for him to be out there looking for a job, and flipping burgers at McDonald's to support his family. I don't want that to happen. So I'm really glad, Josh, you keep making great wine.
I appreciate that. I actually got a good question too from Drew. If this Pinot was one of Drew's past teammates, who would it be? And I was going to throw out Teddy Bruschi, but I want to, Drew, you've mentioned that he's an intellectual, smart guy, but looks like a monster. So I don't know. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
So if this Pinot was one of my past teammates, that's a good question that I've never actually even contemplated before. I'll just give you the first one that comes to mind, and I've got a reason for this. The first one that comes to mind is a guy by the name of Terrence Newman. Terrence Newman was a cornerback that played for us in Dallas. He ended up playing until he was playing corner in the NFL. So it's not like playing quarterback where you don't have to run around and all that stuff. But he was a corner in the NFL. And the reason I think of Terrence Newman is that he was an amazing football player, incredible athlete. He was actually a sprinter at Kansas State. But he was incredibly powerful. I mean, he was probably 6 foot. He was probably about your size, Josh, slightly more athletic. But he was just a powerful. He was a great tackler, great cover guy. But I had some friends that came down for one of our games when I was with the Cowboys, and they were on the sidelines watching us warm up. And they said that when he ran, it looked like his feet didn't even touch the ground. It looked like he was flying. So he was able to create power, force, and impact, but was almost like flying through the, as he was running. And to me, that's the first one that jumps to mind, because when you talk about great Pinot, it's not a wimpy, uninteresting wine. It's got great depth and great character and great, but it also is still light. And still airy, and so that's a cool question. I haven't really thought about that before, but that's very cool.
Love it. I got a couple questions. These are good ones actually, and just a reminder of what a crazy year we've had. But what are the effects of the results, I guess, of the wildfires that we had around the Northwest and actually all up down the West Coast, which was crazy. And then also, how has COVID affected our winemaking operations? The great thing, about our vineyard operations is that we're pretty naturally socially distant. So, you think of a vineyard row, we're mostly 7 or 8 foot vine spacing or row spacing. So we actually, we had guys in masks and trying to, keep apart and make sure that, we actually, really did a big job of being proactive and making sure everyone understood not to go out. And, especially going into harvest, if one person got COVID, it was going to be really a big challenge in the midst of what's already a chaotic time of year. So we had to really, be proactive about that and make sure that we were, basically quarantining together. And, luckily during harvest, you're working so many hours, that's kind of natural. But we were really proactive about that. And then the wildfires, like I said earlier, is the first time in my career I've seen smoke taint, and I'll come out and admit that. And we kept our press wine separate from our free run, and our press wine so far in Willamette Valley is showing some smoke taint. The free run so far is very clean. I'm very optimistic about the northern half of the Willamette Valley. All of our Ribbon Ridge fruit is just absolutely incredible. But the jury's still out down on the southern half. The thing that we will promise, though, is that we won't put anything into our bottle with our names on it that isn't up to quality and isn't up to the normal standards that we held ourselves to. So what a crazy year, though. The unfortunate thing and fortunate thing down in Willamette is the vintage as a whole is absolutely incredible. Warm year, we had a lot of great ripening weather. In Willamette, a lot of times it comes down to that harvest time. If you get these big rain events that come down, it can cause some mildew issues and berries popping and whatnot. But we got great harvest weather, so I'm really excited about the wines, outside of if there is any smoke taint that comes down to being visible later on in the year. But yeah, Drew, you want to talk maybe about the Syrah? Someone asked, is the Syrah 100% or co-fermented with anything?
You're going to put me on the spot. I think it's 100% Syrah, right?
Yeah.
No, we want this to just be a pure expression of one vineyard and what Syrah does in one vineyard. It's a little bit of a different project for us. because we, we've in Doubleback and with the other wines, it's an expression of the valley, and just that the best wine that we can make from our estate vineyards in the valley on Doubleback. And the Chardonnay, we get different sources, and Syrah, we get different sources. But this is the first time that we have really gone forward with trying to make a pure expression of one place, one very specific place with a wine. It just happens to be a pretty special place. It's been called the most, what do they call it? The most unique and distinctive AVA in the United States, the Rocks District of Milton Clearwater. Really excited to kind of see what the next ones are too. But it is a different project for us, though, where rather than, okay, let's take, this palette and we'll bring a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then we'll blend these all together. Instead, this is just a pure expression of a place. I'm pretty happy with what Josh has done with that very special place. It's pretty cool.
Well, we got a couple questions too, kind of going deeper into smoke taint. It's funny. I actually, luckily, don't have a lot of experience with it. The U.S. really doesn't. Most of the wine world doesn't. Australia deals with it every once in a while with bushfires on the inland. But there's the unfortunate thing around it is there's just not a lot of research either because of that. And so there's some, big gaping questions out in the industry right now about what to do. So far, from my perspective, I can't taste it, but you can certainly smell it only in those press barrels. But most of the Pinot Noir smells really clean right now and is actually really good, which I'm excited about. But it's basically two compounds, guaiacol and 4-methyl guaiacol. And guaiacol you actually get every year, but you get it from oak. You get it from your oak barrels. And so as long as those compounds are under the sensory threshold, we'll be in good shape, and it'll actually probably bring some good energy to the wine. But Drew, any plans for white wine in the future?
Not currently. I feel like one of the things that one of my jobs in our business is to pull the reins back on Josh. As winemakers, and they're kind of all the same. Josh is obviously exceptional, but at some level, even though they're making, they may be making the greatest wines in the world, but they always kind of have their eye around the corner to say, oh, what other varietals can we make? Hey, what if we make it? So they always go find some obscure varietal they heard about in Italy, and they're like, okay, well, that's cool that you want to make that, Josh, but we also have to sell it, and nobody has heard of Vermentino, right? So I have to kind of pull the reins back on them a little bit, but that's not a hard no. That's not a hard no on making some white wine under the Bledsoe McDaniels label. We've been really happy with our Elizabeth Chardonnay under the Bledsoe family label. We've been super excited about the very limited amount of Doubleback Chardonnay we put out. This year we did release under a white label into the club. We released some Viognier. We had that at our wine dinner last week. It was fantastic. Josh, I don't know if you know this, but my wife, Mara, absolutely loved the Viognier. So you know how decisions ultimately get made, right? You go all the way to the top. And
yes, sir.
So there could be some Viognier in the future. But we're always really cognizant with our business of making wines that have a purpose. So if we do make another white wine, it'll be something that has a specific reason for being.
Yeah, I love to hear that, and I'm married, so I certainly understand who makes the decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. Robert and Sarah said they'll buy the Vermentino also, Josh. So just don't get too excited, bud.
Yes. Well, everyone heard it here. He left the door open, so we can go down that road once we perfect Loire and Syrah.
That's awesome. Well, guys, I know that we said we'd do an hour, and I think we're coming up on it. I'll just once again say a huge thank you to all of you for continuing to support us. You guys are the lifeblood of our business. Allow us to do what we get to do, and especially in 2020 when everything is so crazy. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys continuing to support us. And make sure you come see us a lot when things are open. Come see us up in Walla Walla.
Yeah, and I'll certainly echo that. And I know my first college professor always reminded me the first day in class, it doesn't matter if you like to make wine, if you can't afford to do it. So I just huge thank you to everyone that, to be able to sell out of our first vintage in a day was an incredible feeling. And we got to get back to hard work and make some more wine for next year.
McDaniels, the winemaker.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Drew. Cheers.
Thanks, Josh.
Cheers.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Thanks.
Cheers.
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 Go Coug.
Go good.
Keep up the good work, boys.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's watch.